Welcome, beautiful souls. My name is Timothy Halloran. I am an astrologer. Thank you for joining me in time. Hit like, subscribe. If you find this information useful, please share. Today is the summer solstice in the northern hemisphere. This is the moment the sun enters the zodiac sign of Cancer. And when the northern hemisphere of the earth is most tilted towards the incoming rays of the sun. This is why we have what is called the Tropic of Cancer. So the zodiac is the fundamental dance of life, which is the source of all life on this planet. The ontological evidence for astrology is time, is energy, is electromagnetism, and what you see is what you get. Now we're going to particularly focus on a Cancer new moon coming up this next week, the 28th. This new moon cycle, when the moon joins the sun in the sign of Cancer, this will very much begin the Cancer season that will take us through the month of July. These coming weeks are going to bring us into an orientation of connecting with our soul family, connecting with the others, those on a similar wavelength as ourself, to really seek support, to fill our glass up with the necessary recognition and support to come into a safe space and a safe container. Now, I am going to highlight this new moon. It is very important every year, but this new moon in particular, it's special. And that may not be a surprise for an astrologer to be saying, hey, a special time and a special event. So let me clarify here. I am going to articulate and explain why this is a significant new moon. When people by and large are saying, hey, this portal, hey, this ascension date, hey, this activation, it's 11/11, and there's no further explanation, I can guarantee you this is a non-event. It's delusional. Such as 2012. It was a non-event. There was no astrological significance to the year of 2012. What 2012 was, a lot of hype. 2020 was predicted by astrologers for many years in advance. 2020 is an astrological event. Now, this new moon in Cancer, it is so important and special because, like any new moon, we are sowing a seed intention for the forthcoming lunar cycle. This is the moon to be doing your ritual, your magic intention, especially the several days prior to the new moon is a magical window to sow your intentional seeds. Now, the theme of this new moon in Cancer, which is this year, especially joined with the Black Moon Lilith and asteroid Lilith on the planetary north node of Jupiter, square to Jupiter in Aries. Very significant. This is a seed sowing for the most missing and needed medicine, principle, understanding on the planet at this time. This is the archetype of Cancer, the archetype of the Divine Mother. This is the most needed and missing medicine: emotional intelligence, empathy, consideration, respect for the inner subjective experience of ourself and others. This is going to be an incredibly emotionally charged month to come. The new moon is out of bounds. It's very emotional, very sensitive, very feeling. On the day of this new moon, Neptune also stations retrograde, trying the south node of the moon in Scorpio. There is this bleeding through of the past, what may be early childhood, what may be past lifetimes. We can really be feeling into far more than what's going on the surface. And this is going to inform us of our missing needs. This is going to inform us of our deeper truth and our deeper story. This is the time to be forming a relationship inwardly between our own inner mother and our own inner child. I'm going to put on sale, as I oftentimes do this time of year. Check out my store. I'll put a link in the video description, a guided MP3 to take you through this gentle reparenting process to form an inner network of self-support. Now, this is the divine feminine that is so oftentimes talked about and so oftentimes not lived, acted, or demonstrated. Okay, so we're going to talk about what this most missing and needed medicine of the divine feminine actually is, and why I'm highlighting this new moon as being important and special is this is the antidote to pull us out of the distortions that have formed in our species, our societies, our man-made religions that have got us off track. Where these distortions took place were in the sign opposite of Cancer, which is the sign of Capricorn. There we see the planetary nodes of Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter. Their south nodes in Capricorn reflect the collective story that man built societies with expectations, obligations, rules, and regulations that forced us out of real, intimate, emotional security. It has not been about intimate emotional security for thousands of years. And this medicine that wants to be brought in with this new moon conjunct, Black Moon Lilith and asteroid Lilith, we're talking about the original, primordial feminine, going way back. We're talking Venus of Willendorf times. We're talking about the matriarchy. And we miss the matriarchy as a species. We have lost the wisdom of the divine mother feminine as a species. It is lost, it is unfamiliar, it is alien, it is unknown. At this time, our species is so unfamiliar with the divine feminine, it's like 90% of what's possible or our consciousness is still a giant question mark. We are rediscovering what it means to be a human being. We have lost our ancient wisdom over this patriarchal period that was oriented towards the building up of societies, declaring war on our neighbors, religious warfare, leaving inheritance to our children, leaving the biggest gravestone when we die. This achievement-oriented accomplishment style of living is the disease of the soul, the disease of our species at this point in time. Now, it is speculated, which is of course speculation because we're talking about tens of thousands of years ago. During the matriarchy, all human beings were like a singular family. We were tribal. There was no nuclear family. Women were regarded as gods because somehow and miraculously they birthed children. And children were raised communally. Therefore, every single human being was our brother and sister. Now, can we even imagine what such a world must feel like in our current day and age? The answer is no. We live in fear of one another. We live in prejudice of one another. I mean, look what's come up these last few weeks with this Mars Chiron, the intensity, the war, the gender bias, the projection. There's a lot of healing that needs to take place for our species, is there not? So Cancer is the most missing and needed medicine of this time: emotional intelligence, empathy. Black Moon Lilith, asteroid Lilith, this is the time to be a pillar of this power, because Cancer was thrown under the bus in the patriarchy, disrespected, told it was weak, told it was inferior. And this is still, by and large, the world that we live in. This is still, by and large, the religious philosophical understanding that we have. Even so many parading as being the divine feminine rising are simply recycling patriarchy through putting down and slandering the need for Cancer. I'll give you some examples of how Cancer is commonly put down. We say things like we need to maintain a positive outlook at all times. We say things like we need to remain high vibe. We say things like people, when they have health conditions or they get sick, it's because of something they did wrong or a spiritual implication. We label people with names that are demonizing. We say, oh, look at that, there's a narcissist. Oh, look at that, there's an abuser. There's a succubus, there's a demon, there's a vampire. All of these names and labels are dehumanizing. They absolutely take us away from the personal experience. It takes us away from being able to provide support, empathy, care, or respect to anybody. So what does Cancer sound like? Coming from maternal souls. Cancer sounds like, come over to my home, put your feet up by the fire while I cook you a nice bowl of soup because I want to hear your story. I want to hear your feelings. I want to know about your childhood. I want to know about your pain. I want to feel your pain with you because I care. And that's what empathy does. And empathy is required for compassion. It's required for spirituality. This is why the divine feminine is the foundation of all life. It is what opens us up to feeling. This is not a raising our vibration, ascending to the next dimension reality. Those who are trying to skip and jump into higher vibrations are avoiding and running away from the reality of the feminine, which is a descension, a coming into our body, a coming into our emotions, our subjective experience, so to process what is here and to process what was. You see, this new moon is going to open up a doorway to the past. Again, these past lifetimes can bleed through, and it can be hard to comprehend. The wisdom of the feminine is not coming to us through simply, stories and visions and sparkly, exciting experiences. It's through feeling. It's through sensation. And these feelings and sensations may tell the story itself without the visuals, without the rational timeline. And these feelings are valid. There are truth. There are past. They will explain to us where we have needs. Every feeling is an orientation to our needs. What feels good, what we have, what doesn't feel good, what we lack, this is our internal compass. We could say Cancer is our own inner child and our own inner mother listening to that inner child, nurturing that inner child. You are safe to feel. No matter what you are feeling, in the moment that you feel it, you are safe to feel even that. You are safe to feel that it's the apocalypse. You're safe to feel suicidal. You are safe to feel not safe. Is the wisdom of the mother. The power of the divine feminine goes down. There's none of this running and skipping off into positive light realms. That's dissociation and avoidance. And it's not aligned with compassion or caring. It does not bring anything good to the world. We bring goodness to the world by having enough boundaries, self-protection, food to sustain ourselves, to go into the hell realms of others. Highly maternal souls, those souls that are embodying and anchoring the divine feminine, this is how you will recognize them. They go into the hell realms of others to bring healing, awareness, light, care, provision to those that need it the most. That means getting your hands dirty. That means getting into the muck and the mess. That's what the Divine Mother does. She does that out of care, out of empathy for her children. Okay. Now, what I have consistently recognized is the most maternal, caring, medicinal souls do not recognize themselves. Because this whole world and society is biased towards the achievement, accomplishment, what you're doing outwardly, how many followers you have on Instagram, whatever it may be. The people that are constantly going out of their way to provide care, being like a mother to so many children, I oftentimes see these souls getting used. And it's like spoiled children, how they treat their ma. Ma, dinner. Ma, sandwich. Ma, I got a hurt belly. Come take care of me. You know. Now, we're all these children at this time. We're all starved of the divine feminine. We're all starved of the divine mother. So this type of clinging, disrespecting, wanting what we don't know, that we need, that we don't know. You know, this is, again, you know, it's a huge time of healing gender stuff too. You probably have noticed. Mars is still conjunct Chiron. This June month has been a huge healing of gender and sexuality and bias. And I have to say, it's complex. This is not a, you know, what you see on the outside is what you get on the inside world. I have observed so many gladiator women trampling their sensitive men who are actually holding the feminine, although they're in a male gender. So let's not be confused here. Gender aside, we're all attempting to anchor this sensitivity, this caring, and then there tends to be these biases because of where we've been wounded by this world that steamrollers and crushes and says, you know what, your emotions don't matter. The more that you feel, the more sensitive you are, the more you're not going to be able to create. You're not going to be able to generate your output 9 to 5 every day if you have all these emotions and feelings going on. So what do? We disassociate, we desensitize, we end up becoming a zombie species already there. So Cancer souls, we all need to recognize where we have these sensitivities. Check out where 7 degrees of Cancer. What house is that in your chart? That's where you're going to have this maternal wisdom that you can anchor in whatever way is unique to you. But we have to have the respect for our own sensitivities, our own emotions, to be informed by them. The highly maternal souls that feel used, they have to learn to not be manipulated by guilt or expectation as if that's simply their job. They have to recognize how valuable this safety is. There's a reason why there are particular people and places that are safe. And there tends to be people that go to these people or places when they're in their hard times. These are the people and the places that deserve the most respect. They are like the air filtration machines that are purifying the entire collective conscious. So this is about self-recognition and self-respect of our own empathy, our own sensitivities, so to be informed from the inside out of what is the truth. And the worst thing we could do is override these sensitivities via the expectations, obligations, standards of our long-lost culture and society. Now this new moon squares Jupiter in Aries, and there's an interesting finger of the world formation with a sesquiquadrate between the new moon, Jupiter, and the south node of the moon in Scorpio. So long story short, this Jupiter in Aries is a part of this new moon dynamic, and there is a need for safety, support, openness, flexibility, as much as there is a need for freedom and independence and autonomy, as well as listening to and respecting our own instincts, our own gut reactions, our own defensive, protective urges. There is a dynamic of needing to listen to the deeper again, feminine field. It may not always make sense, but we'll feel something's right or something's off, and that's this compass. That actually this new moon, again with this Lilith signature, this is an opportunity to come into a power that's been long forgotten by our world. This type of empathy is like having psychic tentacles that can penetrate into other people's field and just feel it and understand it. We can feel each other's past lives bleeding through these emotional reactions. And we need to have the openness, the flexibility, the safe space to respond, to have a gut reaction, to listen to that gut reaction, to honor the story of what's coming from the inside, and to not take it overly seriously and not have to declare any wars or burn any bridges or, just, be halfway driven across the country before we even realize what hit us. This is a need for exploration. Now, this new moon is on the north node of Jupiter as well. So this is the truth. We need to bring in a new ontology, a new religion, a new philosophy, a new understanding of life that has this feminine wisdom, that has this empathy, this orientation as the priority. There is a need to explore. This is like reinventing our philosophy. And I have to say, how we're reinventing this as well, with Jupiter and Chiron conjoined in Aries all summertime, there is a healing of the animal self, our biological nature. Again, the feminine is not an ascension. Feminine is a descension into our bodies, our emotions, our subjective, personal experience. This is also a healing of the masculine. That's what's been going on these weeks with Mars conjunct Chiron. Regardless of gender, we're healing the energetic masculine. And there's going to be a deep story here for each and every one of us. And it is not simply men are abusers, women are, victims. It was, I've seen so much, abuse, honestly, these last few weeks, and this like enabling and sweeping under. It's almost like in patriarchy, like the 1800s, how men used to get together, smoke pipes, and complain about their wives, while wives did all the work, raising of children, food cooking, etc. I notice it's like the roles have reversed in some of these new age settings. And it's like men are guilty before innocent, have to be entirely perfect, or else being thrown under the bus. So I just have to say out loud that we are entering a different paradigm. We have to have the space and time to tune into what's going on the inside. Because for a man who had an abusive mother to hate on women the rest of his life is not okay. It's not okay for women to hate on men because we have correctly identified we are leaving a distorted male dominant era. It's not our first lifetime. This may not be the only gender you've ever lived in. Just had to put that one out there. This is healing the feminine too. It's not just going to be people in female gender that are pillars of this divine feminine. Again, what I have observed is that men who are anchoring these pillars, sensitive, caring, providing, sometimes can get steamrollered and used just the same as highly caring, maternal, and sensitive women. Now, this finger of the world, it's again, there needs to be an exploration of truth, philosophy. We're getting online with our bodies. We're descending into our consciousness. There is a need to explore desire. We're leaving an age of needless self-sacrifice. We're listening to our emotions to understand our needs, and then we got to create the space to explore them. That's how we're going to trailblaze and bring in what's new. This healing the masculine is about healing our capability to be confident, to go in our own direction, to initiate what might be different or daring or a little bit fringy. That's what we need right now. So that Jupiter in Aries is, let's bring in something radical, different, daring, with the safety of empathy, care, respect, checking in. How do you feel? How do I feel? Okay, let's move to the next step. How do I feel? How do you feel? Etc. Let's get away from the dehumanization of names and labels. We're all human beings. We all have the reactions and the responses that we do for good reason. Nobody chooses to be a basket case. We're all learning about what's going on beneath the surface. To do that, we need the safe, supportive space to unwind layer after layer. The divine feminine wants to go into that. Black Moon Lilith, asteroid Lilith, this is the fundamental power of all life. Women are the creatrix. They are the creative force. We all come from woman. We all come from woman. We were all produced by lingams and yonis. We were all produced through a biological sexuality. Sadly, despite this being the foundation of all life, these have also been the most disrespected, thrown under, vilified, seen as impure things in our life. It's a scathing to the divine feminine. So this healing of matriarchal wisdom is also simultaneously the healing of healthy sexual orientation. If you want to know about the Lilith book, the best book on Lilith that I have read is called Keepers of the Flame. Okay, Google it. It's in the evolutionary astrology group, and it is just absolutely about this long forgotten origin, which they title not the matriarchy but the sacriarchy, because so much was oriented around this in the body, in the emotion, felt, sensed through direct connection, direct experience. So souls that are anchoring divine feminine wisdom through their careers, for example, would be somatic body workers, massage therapists, any type of therapist, those that are providing safe space, mirroring, emotional support, those who are therapists without that being their career. That's simply what they are doing. Sex workers. If there's any career role that has been damned, it's sex workers, right? To charge money for sexual healing is still a little ahead of its time, pretty controversial. But I would say this is at the root origin of how humans used to be. Before we built these man-made cultures, society, and religions, sexuality was essentially a language. And this is still the case. We're still learning about sexual energy, the creative energy, the fundamental life force itself, how we can express this, how it can be a vehicle and a channel for healing. And this goes far, far beyond mere penetrative, what we see on Pornhub sexuality, right? That is just a sad display, again, of what we've lost. There's no connection, there's no communication, there's no care, there's no healing. It's a cesspool of trauma. But we're healing trauma through the somatic therapy, through the emotional intelligence, through the sexual healing, which fundamentally is about anchoring safe space. You are safe to feel. You are safe to digest what you have experienced, what you are experiencing. You know what I would say? This safe space to digest past and present is going to bring up not just fluffy unicorns. There's some discomfort in processing the story of our life, the story of our world, the story of our species. You know what I oftentimes notice about souls that really embody the divine feminine? They are not sparkly, happy, and overexcited. They hold the collective story, which is a tragedy, largely. No, it's not a period tragedy, like that's the end, but we lost so much of our essence through this disrespecting of the mother, the feminine, so blanket across almost all of our cultures. Patriarchy has been a nearly global phenomenon, really, really amazing to see how it was even possible, how it even happened in the first place. Required a lot of force, required a lot of overriding. That's what we're healing from, by allowing ourselves to descend into the feelings of what may be past stories, past emotions, even if they are uncomfortable. Here's another disabling New Age idea. Oh, that's a story. Oh, that's a story. Oh, that's a story. Yes, it is, and we don't want to be so attached to the wounds of the past that we can never move forward or heal. Common sense. That said, if we're calling somebody else's past experience a story as if that is not one of the most valid, important, life-affecting things we will experience, all we're doing is encouraging a person to lose their humanity. It is through our emotions and feelings that we are living life. It is through our emotions that we learn, grow, and evolve. This remain high vibe, be positive and sparkly delusion is actually what kills the soul. And this has been the tradition of the priest class. Suppress our sexuality, suppress our emotions. Don't you know that we're all in a perfect world and everybody is actually an eternal soul and we're actually all happy and healed, and so there's no real problems and we're just floating around in this realm that's not true. This could be a period where we have feelings that are very, very deep. And this is all July we're talking about. This is why. Do your grief ceremonies. Get in contact with your soul family. Sweat lodge. Nice long hot baths. Get into the sauna. This is all the medicine of the time. This is how we release these feelings. We descend in. We feel it. We let the story be told. And then it's released. That's how we grieving is this. Grieving is also the most potent form of prayer. You want to create prayer that's going to change the world? Allow your heart to break. You want to have prayer that's going to infect the hearts of others? Allow your heart to break. Feel the tragedy of this world. That will be the source of your greatest prayers. It's an alchemical transmutation to go into that broken heart or go into this darkness, this sadness, this grief, and to truly mourn. To truly mourn what we may have lost or what we feel is missing is the most powerful form of prayer. What of this skipping and jumping into an ascension or the next realm? It has nothing to do with reality. It's a bypass. It's how we lose our humanity. You want to become more alive? We are on the journey of feeling more. The more that you feel, the more of a full spectrum experience you're going to have. Good, bad, and ugly. That is the transcendental power of the feminine. We can actually get into a richness, an appreciation of life, an appreciation of all the facets of life, good, bad, and ugly, by tuning into the wisdom of the feminine. You know what souls particularly have access to that wisdom? The ones that were burnt at the stake, the ones that were crucified, the ones that were snuffed out in torture chambers. These were oftentimes the most feminine, earth-centric, sensitive souls that were targeted by dissociated clowns that had no idea what was actually going on here, just running a story of good guys and bad guys. Watch out for that story of good guys and bad guys. It's not a real story. Watch out for labels. There's no demons fighting a holy war on this planet. We're all human beings. The most abusive people on the planet are those that do not successfully identify the potential for evil in themselves. It's not good guys and bad guys. That's us. That's all in us. It's oftentimes those souls that have already carried their crosses and crucified, and now in this life are healing from really intense past life traumas that are oftentimes reflected subtly or maybe not so subtly in our early childhood experiences. Our species is healing from PTSD on a collective level. Tuning into this new moon means that we're healing through feeling. We're healing through remembering, through the emotional body, what may be these past experiences. The way that we do this is by bringing in safe space. This is the truth. Safe space is so rare between people and places on this planet, we don't even know what it is. We're like fish in water, to being constantly stressed out, insecure, pushed outside of our limits. When we finally get to safe space or we meet a safe person, what tends to automatically happen is we break open, we start to pour out our wounds, our exhaustion. Suddenly it hits us, oh my God, I'm so tired, I'm so drained, I feel so empty, I feel so lost. Yes, because for the first time in your life, you just sat down. You just took a breath of air. Those souls that are the matriarchs, that are pillars, that are anchoring this to the earth have to recognize how valuable this medicine is, so that way they don't get shredded to pieces by all these people wanting and getting and pulling them in all these different directions. What that means is self-respect. It's just about knowing and being appreciated for what it is that you are providing. I feel so safe with you. I feel so supported when I come here. Thank you so much. This truly is life-changing. That's the recognition and reaffirmation that is healing both ways. Now the matriarch can see herself and she's becoming more empowered. Oh yeah, this is what I do. This is what is needed. And so I'm going to identify and create the structures to make this work even better. It's no longer an invisible, unconscious process. Okay. So again, it's those souls that have been initiated into the witch path. They've already been burnt at the stake. They know that even those experiences are initiations into wisdom that goes far beyond our capability to comprehend. That we can feel every single thing life is going to give us, and it's a part of this melting down, this breaking down, this cooking down to die, regenerate, and rebirth as something new, fresh, liberated. And these are the cycles of life. This is the in-out breath. This is the golden dark age. Everything in life is this cycle, this pattern, and this reverberation. This is the feminine. Birth, death, sexuality. It all uses the same doorway. It's all anchoring in the same energy. The energy that we're accessing through our body, our skin, our empathy is connected to our soul. We can use our body, our emotional feeling, our somatic experience. We can create paradise and safe spaces in the 3D. We can create paradise and safe spaces in our imagination with hypnosis, so on and so forth. We can create paradise and safe spaces with technology. This is how we're going to progress our species. Because when we recognize this most needed and missing medicine, everything is just going to start to unfold. The story, the truth, the essence, what we're connected to, how we can re-access that, how we can get back on track with what actually matters. And what actually matters is that we're people. What actually matters is that we are all a family. It's not only our biological families we can be reconnecting with this next month of July. This is the time to remember and reconnect with our soul family. As we are doing so, the emotions and the remembrances that may be coming up on a mysterious, unspoken level may be speaking to us from times and dimensions so buried, so long forgotten, that it's simply going to blow our minds. What is possible, what we can create going into the future is a different world. A world where we truly feel safe to be ourselves, where we do not have to hide what's going on inside of us. Is true family not those people that we can show up as our authentically weird selves, and no matter what, we will be accepted for who we uniquely are? We can all be this and provide this for one another. Again, those who may be going through some tension, 30% off in my store, Journey to the Inner Child. It's a 50-minute guided hypnosis meditation that gently and easily eases you into this reparenting process. Say you have some emotions or feelings you don't know and we just feel stuck and icky, this would be the perfect time to go through this process. It's going to move those emotions. It's going to allow you to recognize the story, then recognize the need, and then be able to step up and align with what you need to do to honor that need and bring in what may be previously missing into your experience. We have to start with ourselves, then we will become fountainheads and pillars for the rest of the world. Those of us who have not found that maternal, supportive, safe space out there in the world, you are on a journey of recognizing that in yourself. Those who don't have lowercase mom there to lean on, we can connect with the Divine Mother, capital M, in ourself. This is the initiation to filling up our own glass, to carving out the paths that we need to carve out, starting with ourself first. If the world doesn't know what it's missing, and we do, it's time for us to do the work that no one else will. This is the time to go against the grain of what's known and familiar out there in the world. If you listen and tune into what's going on the inside, that's going to allow for this old snakeskin of what's not working on the outside to successfully fall away.